Over the next half hour, we'll take you on a tour of the Silver State, showing you stories you either don't know about or details you're unfamiliar with regarding the past, present, and future of Nevada. And we start right here, overlooking the Truckee Meadows. It's been 99 years since the first piece of mail was delivered via airplane, and an important part of the process is still scattered across the state, including right here in northwest Reno. It's a piece of U.S. history, nearly a century old now.
They're not easy to get to and can be hard to find.
Now, here's what would really add to this, is if we find a big rattler.
But if someone can point you in the right direction.
See, there it is, okay? It's not very big.
You'll help keep a century-old tradition alive.
I was out here hiking with my family, and we just happened to come upon it without really a clear understanding of what it was.
93 years ago, in 1924, the U.S. Postal Service changed the mail game with an eye-raising, yet then innovative idea.
It's just a stupid arrow.
That's right. From New York to San Francisco, built about 10 miles apart, were 70-foot-long concrete arrows.
Here we have Nevada, and trying to fly across Nevada, without good compasses and without good maps was a real challenge.
Hundreds were built, now only 6 are left along I-80 in Nevada, including one outside of Lovelock, just off the beaten path.
The arrows were only part of the system. In the middle of the concrete stood a 50-foot-tall light tower with a shed behind that. Now that we know of, only 2 still stand here in Nevada, including one we're hiking to right now in Fernley.
It's a really, really small thing when you come at it from the air.
UNR geography professor Ken Newsier is also a pilot. He's hiked to and flown over the tower several times before.
And you imagine what happens when cloud cover comes over or fog bank comes in, and these guys are just really out there with no support.
It's like such a small accomplishment today, right? But it's one of those things that brought us to where we are today.
Radio technology made the arrow system obsolete in 1933, but aside from the 2 we've shown you, there are at least 6 more in Nevada and several others across the California border. Now it's your job to navigate to the rest.
Well, some of the most historic aspects of our state come from the most rural of communities. Over the summer, the Tonopah Clown Motel made headlines from coast to coast. It's for sale for nearly $1 million. So we convinced News 4's Brian Smudio to join us on a trip to central Nevada to see what the talk is all about.
How did you talk me into this?
Nevada's Clown Motel is now world famous, and right when we arrived in Tonopah, we quickly realized.
Oh, no, that's the cemetery.
There's the cemetery.
Oh my gosh.
Aside from the 600 plus clowns,
I can't believe we're doing this.
how this property obtained its reputation.
There's a cemetery right next to it.
Opened in the 1980s, the Clown Motel has always been true to its theme, and when we met up with owner Bob Perschetti to figure out exactly why, we discovered the lobby.
This place exists because of a man by the name of Leroy David. He owned this property, and him and his sister. Their father was buried in the old cemetery here, Clarence David, and they wanted to do something close to in memory of him and close to him.
It just so happened the family owned a massive clown collection and brought it here. And when Perschetti bought it in 1995, he only added to it.
How unique is this place? I mean, you don't see anything like this anywhere.
Well, it's especially in a historic mining town.
History that many believe haunts the Clown Motel today. The 1901 to 1911 Tonopah Cemetery sits next door. And in 1911, the Tonopah Belmont mine fire rocked the town. 17 miners died and are buried here.
Clown Motel.
Marlena Dufour is the night clerk. With all the recent attention here, she's hearing more and more voices.
We are going to walk the graveyard. Do people do that?
Yeah, people do it all the time. Just make sure, that you don't have something show up on your camera. Mist will show up, an apparition may show up, so just giving you a heads up.
That's normal. People have experienced things at night when they walk through there.
It may happen, okay?
Okay.
So.
Okay. We're only here once. Let's do it.
You didn't say we were going to be walking through a graveyard at night outside the Clown Motel in Tonopah.
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Oh, man.
And after just several minutes of walking the grounds,
I got this extremely cold chill across my entire body that we hadn't felt the entire night. And I haven't felt since. It was a rush. Came right on me. And that was all I experienced. But, oh, it just came up again.
In the early 1900s, they had a plague from Europe. And a lot of the miners, you'll see on the gravestones, a lot of the miners died from the plague. So those first few years were pretty rough in Tonopah, and most of the people were buried there.
Perchetti has plans, hosting a clown convention, creating a clown theme park, and more expansion to the motel. But at the end of the day, he says it's time to move on.
I don't want to be buried in that graveyard. I'll be close to the clowns that way. But I'd like to see this continue as the Clown Motel, and I'd like to see them improve it and make it nicer and bigger.
Well, speaking of rural Nevada, to get to the annual Burning Man Festival each year, thousands of people from around the world must travel up this, State Route 447, where they'll end up in the small Nevada town of Gerlach. And the weekend before Burning Man begins, the town's population goes from around 200 people to nearly 70,000.
It's unbelievable. It's for 2 weeks, it's just, they're coming and going, you know. All the guys that build it, then all the folks that come and visit it, and it's a fun event. This is our third year with Fire on the Mountain. We do a lot of catering, a lot of events in Reno, Sparks, and Tahoe area. We look forward to it every year. Bob comes from Atwater, California. My brother comes from Oregon, and then I got a couple local guys.
The town actually somewhat thrives on it a little bit, where they can open up, you know, the pizza place during the event. And some other items like that. The biggest problem is the influx of traffic. You have 70,000 plus people coming in and out of the event. We bring out about 8 additional deputies and 2 supervisors, so we have 10 deputies and 2 supervisors out here for about 14 days, primarily to work traffic control, broke down, stuck, disabled vehicles, any problems. We'll take these so they don't blow all over. Significant problems in Gerlach and Empire is you have right here 2 gas pumps for the entire town of, what normally is fine, but when you have 70,000 people come through that need gas, it creates an issue with lines and just traffic issues in general. Instead of being just a kind of a hunting mecca, they kind of transform into a whole different population, coming through in and out of the town.
You meet people from all over the world here, and it's really quite impressive to talk to these folks.
What's this?
We have entire animals hanging in the air, and people that are going to the burn that really aren't from countries that do a lot of hunting themselves. They're really intrigued. How much did it cost you to get here?
In the meantime, nothing, because I don't have a ticket.
Oh, I'm a professional taxidermist, and I've been coming out here for 31 years. The very first year when they came out, I wasn't even aware that they were coming. And I was kind of struck by some of the costumes that the people were wearing.
We've been here supplying Burning Man with L-wire and LEDs for about 16 years. So my husband actually started the business, Quantum Glen, as a way to help light up people on the playa so they don't get run over by art cars or bicycles. It's really a protective measure. We're here about a week to 2 weeks before the event. Yeah, we stay until, we go to Reno and do the Grand Sierra like everyone else on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and wash and take showers and do all that fun stuff. So we're here for about 3 weeks total.
When we come back, record snowfall brings a breathtaking yet potentially dangerous sight across Sierra roadways. It may be unfamiliar now, but certainly nothing new. And later, historic buildings in need of some serious, tender, loving care. As we overlook the Mount Rose Wilderness down the northern slope of Lake Tahoe, welcome back to our News 4 Knowing Nevada special. Last year's wettest winter in our region's history certainly did a number right here on Mount Rose Highway. The snowplows worked overtime, essentially turning this roadway into what felt like a pipeline.
It was a year for the record books across Lake Tahoe. The powder packed the mountains all season long. And in that sweet spot in the spring and between the snowfall and the snow melt, there's this glorious sight through Reno's gateway to the Sierra.
From Florida, this is quite different than the sand. So tomorrow my feet will be in the sand, and today they're in feet of snow. So love it.
It's incredible. I come from Western New York, and it's incredible. We thought we got a lot of snow with the lake effect snow, and that's nothing compared to what we experienced here today.
The Mount Rose Highway snow walls got plenty of attention this past spring. Many stopped to take pictures, even more posting to social media about the snow hanging over cars below.
There's a number of areas where we get some cornices that build up out over the road that we take care of for them.
The Mount Rose ski team partners with the Nevada Department of Transportation to keep Mount Rose Highway safe. With the snow starting to melt, chunks can break off and come crashing down. So patrollers close down the road and use explosives to break up the hazardous areas.
We can have not that much snow, but enough wind that it builds the cornices. But, you know, in an average winter, we'd probably do it maybe 4 or 5 times for them. And this year we've done it about 10 times.
Mount Rose and NDOT have been working together since the 1980s. And for those who have been around longer than their partnership, these walls, although impressive, are still a familiar sight.
The last time I skied, I got beat by my 10-year-old great-grandson on a snowboard. And I figured that's, for an old racer, that's a real shot in the arm. I'll tell you that'll break your spirit right there.
Don Snowshoe Thompson carved his way through the Sierra for decades, starting on the UNR ski team in the 40s and working as a ski rider through the 2010s.
It was 70 pretty good years.
At one time in the early 50s, Thompson decided to ski from Mount Rose Resort to Incline Village. At one point, he realized he was along the edge of the tall walls.
We were watching the snowplow looking down. I don't know if you know how big a snowplow is, but it was having trouble just getting that stuff over the top of the drifts. Now that was a good-sized year.
Well, going out of bounds is probably a little more punishable nowadays than back then, but regardless, the time to ski and check out this scene is right around the corner again.
When we come back, a tour inside 2 of Nevada's most historic yet decrepit buildings and the story behind the early settlers they're named after. Flying over the Capitol building in Carson City, welcome back to our Knowing Nevada special. After years of setbacks and delayed reopenings, one historic Northern Nevada casino could have another shot at life again soon. It hit the open market earlier this year, but there are still plenty of hurdles to cross for any new potential owners.
2, 1. The new Carson City corridor broke ground last October. So now it may be time for one of Carson Street's most prominent features to catch up.
I think the ownership is ready to sell. I believe they're ready to move on. And give the dream up to another developer to experience. Ownership spent a lot of time and effort in designing this into a state-of-the-art casino facility.
Closed since 2000, the Ormsby House is for sale again. Theodore Stover with Coyers International gave us a tour of the building.
They've tried to preserve the staircase. I believe it was the old Frankovich staircase.
The owner's initial plan was to give the property a facelift and reopen within a year or two.
The large bedroom, sitting living room.
17 years later, HVAC, mechanical, electric, and plumbing, they're all brand new, with the skeleton of the building left to work with.
This space was designed for casino, a bar, steakhouse, coffee shop, coffee bar, and meeting rooms back in the far area.
What do you think?
It's really sad to see it torn apart like that because it wasn't. The casino floor wouldn't have taken that much to fix it up.
20 years ago, the Ormsby was run by former Lieutenant Governor and future Reno Mayor Bob Cashel.
It's a real neat place. I hope that they can get a buyer that'll go in and fix it, finish it.
The name Ormsby House is more historic than the actual building. The original opened in 1860 on 2nd and Carson by Major William Ormsby. He died that same year. The Laxalt family bought it in the early 1900s, tore it down, and built the new Ormsby in 1972, just 3 blocks away from the first one.
It's a great little location, but the way they've let other casinos come into the market, I'm not so sure how valuable it is as a casino.
Stover says the calls are coming in and there's a lot of interest from potential buyers.
Everybody's excited to see the property, be completed, and it's right in the middle of the heart of the city, and I think everybody wants to see it completed.
The question now is what it could become. Hotel, senior housing, a casino resort again. It's all been brought up and completely depends on who decides to take on the project next.
Meanwhile, a half hour away here in Virginia City, there's a building named after one of Nevada's most famous pioneers. The Mackay Stadium is in its 51st season hosting football games at Nevada, but it's the Mackay Mansion that's about a century and a half old now.
This is hallowed ground, home of the Nevada Wolfpack, and named after the equivalent of today's multi-billionaire. The legend of John Mackay lives large throughout UNR, but his 1800s Northern Nevada roots need some help.
I want it to be brought back to the way it was.
Virginia City's Mackay Mansion is as historic as the Comstock gets. Mackay moved in 1871, and just 2 years later, his Virginia City silver discovery made him $100 million. That's around $2 billion today.
And this is our vault, and this is where they would keep the gold and silver ingots. We're looking to restore the entire vault, hang the door.
The bones of the now Mackay Mansion Museum are still here.
And our fireplace is one of our most intriguing items. The man that did it did 3 that we know are famous. One is here, one is in the White House, and one is in Thomas Jefferson's house in Monticello.
But major restoration is needed.
This room we want to get the mural down and we want to get the walls repainted. Our stairs are getting pretty worn out, and the railing downstairs, we need a second railing as well.
Original carpet is falling apart. Bedroom door and window frames are cracking. That's both inside and out.
We'd like to get those restored.
And the entire balcony needs to be replaced.
Another issue here from the outside that's actually new after this last winter. If you look down on the ground, you can see chunks of the chimney falling off. And if it needs a full replacement, that of course will be costly.
Mackay Mansion is privately owned. They make money hosting weddings, birthday parties, paranormal investigations, and other special events. But costs are racking up, and too much to keep up with.
I think it's very important for people to see the history and know what actually happened here. It's amazing, and people don't realize the history that's involved.
Thousands have come through UNR's Mackay Engineering Building, and both old and new Mackay stadiums have been homes to dozens of winning football teams. Now, some in Virginia City are hoping to raise the standard of what started John Mackay's legacy in the first place.
When we come back, rock and roll's connection to Northern Nevada, how A-list bands like Kiss and the Doobie Brothers can credit one local company for their iconic performances. As we again look over the new and improved state capitol, welcome back to our Knowing Nevada special. Depending on your preferred era of music, a small piece of Northern Nevada may have played a major role in some of your favorite bands and songs. In all, more than 2,000 music sets used all around the world were built right here in Carson City.
Minute by minute, echoes fill this empty building. There's nobody home. And even though this looks like just another brick in the wall, a saucer full of secrets is hidden inside.
The building itself, what went on in those 4 walls, and the artisans that it housed, and the creativity that came out of it. The walls were just adorned with memorabilia. Now where do I put all that?
John Procaccini went on tour with Boston in 1977 and became fascinated with the stage.
There's boxes of UV protected photos.
He eventually made his way to Carson City, and right as he started his set design company, Stagecraft.
They said, new artist, MC Hammer. Heard of him? I said, well, I know the song that's on the radio. Who doesn't?
The business started in this Carson City building in 1987. MC Hammer immediately hired the company to build sets like this model.
We just went for it, and we built this set in 3 weeks. And Hammer goes out, and he loves this set. I tried to get some highlights for you to show you. This is kind of when I was with Sammy Hagar, Boston, and Kiss, and George Strait, and Pink Floyd. An article in the magazine about us and Pink Floyd. They did a whole 4-page spread on Pink Floyd and us and our contribution to that tour.
And after building the MC Hammer stage, bands like Rolling Stones, Doobie Brothers, and Pink Floyd started calling.
Now all of a sudden Carson City, Mallory Way in Carson City and the entire surrounding area becomes an attraction.
Procaccini eventually moved his business to Nashville in 2002 and used this building as a local theater and practice facility venue for bands through 2007.
It's obviously a truck loading dock, modified so it could be used as a outdoor stage. All these bolts into the cement for a front canopy and such.
Steve Knight bought the building for his new Silver State Charter School about a decade ago and kept the theater alive.
We did dozens and dozens of plays and had lots of big audiences coming here that the teachers and staff have produced. It was kind of neat.
But Silver State Charter School has rebranded into Argent Prep, and the building sits empty and on the market, giving Procaccini high hopes that one of these days he can take it back.
We're here. We're still here, and it may be time for me to go in and see if we can't use that space and present music again.
Well, there are so many more stories about our state we have yet to even tap into. For more about the past, present, and future of Nevada, keep an eye out for our next round of stories on News 4 Nightly. For Knowing Nevada, I'm Ryan Kern. Thank you so much for joining us.